Our mind is a reservoir of mental images created by our process of thinking based on the information given by our sensory organs through electric signals. However, the information supplied by our sense organs are faulty, inadequate, distorted, not really true, because all our sense organs are incapable of grasping the actual reality of their respective sense objects. Therefore, all information supplied by our sense organs rendered to be false, faulty, inadequate, distorted. But such signals given by sense organs are automatic. They happen automatically. Sense organs become aware of respective sense objects. For example, our eyes become aware of pictures, images, objects. Our ears become aware of sounds. Our nose becomes aware of smells. Our tongue becomes aware of taste. Our skin becomes aware of touch. And with those sensory experiences, automatically those sensory organs supply our mind with the information they get from the world. And those signals are electric signals. And with that inadequate, faulty, distorted information, our mind starts thinking about it. Before thinking, those signals given by the sense organs are recognized by the mind with the help of the earlier information saved in our brain, which is like a hard disk in a computer, retaining all the data or information given to the computer. Similarly, our brain contains the information that we have already taken. That means our brain supplies the mind not with the present knowledge but with the past knowledge. The past is dead. However, the mind interprets the present information with that past knowledge. For example, when our eyes give a signal to the mind about certain objects that the eyes become aware of. Our mind recognizes them, like, for example, this is my father, mother, brother, sister, tree, river, rock, hill, etc. And that recognition is done, as I mentioned earlier, with the previous information saved in our brain as memories. And with that memory, certain images get created in our mind, which is a screen, like the screen of a computer or a mobile or a TV. Then our mind starts thinking about it. The mind thinks of such images by liking them or disliking them or get deceived by them. In Buddha language, liking is called raga, which can be translated as attachment, to think that you like. Disliking is called dosa. There is resentment of the objects or the mental objects, images that you dislike. And both liking and disliking is based on our inadequate knowledge of things, lack of full awareness of the reality of those objects. And that lack of knowledge or full awareness is called Moha in Buddha's language. Therefore, according to Buddha's language, our thinking is based on our likes called raga, dislikes called dosa, and ignorance of the reality of those mental images called moha. Therefore, the mental process of our mind is created by our attachment, resentment and ignorance, called raga, dosa, moha, that disappear completely at the enlightenment. Then there is no attachment, resentment or delusion created by those mental images. There is only awareness of them, but the mind becomes free of thinking of them. Thinking is based on likes, dislikes and ignorance, as I mentioned earlier. Enlightenment is the ceasing of such thinking. That is why the Buddha uttered in first period of joy after enlightenment, saying, my thinking ceased at the enlightenment. According to his own words, what he uttered is, visankhara gatam cittam. My mind became free of creating mental images. Creating mental images means thinking. The process of thinking is a creation of mental images. A mind free from thinking is mind free from creating mental images, a line of mental images. Therefore, the enlightened mind is free of mental images. It becomes empty of mental images with no process of thinking. The thinking is based on our liking, disliking and ignorance, as I mentioned earlier. And when there is no liking, disliking or ignorance of the reality of mental images, there is no process of thinking. Visankhara, gatam, cittam, in Buddha's language, is the cessation of the process of thinking. But sensation remains. As I mentioned earlier, sensory activities are automatic. But the activity called thinking is deliberate. And it is done by our concept called I. I am thinking. That means it is the I that thinks. I like it, I dislike it, I don't know it. Such mental activities are called, as I mentioned earlier, raga, dosa, moha, meaning attachment, resentment and ignorance. Enlightenment means the cessation of attachment, resentment and ignorance, called raga, dosa, moha. That is why Buddha defined the enlightened mind or enlightenment as ragakyo, dosakyo, idang buchyati nibbana. Nibbana, the word means freedom from mental bondages. That means the mind does not get hold of those passing mental images. They pass away like clouds without the mind holding on to them through liking, disliking or through ignorance. Mental images are mirages. They appear to be real, but actually they are not real. Not knowing that the mental images are real, we entertain the mental state called moha, meaning ignorance. Ignorance of the reality. Enlightenment means the disappearance of that ignorance through the realization of the activity that is going on in our mind and in our sense organs. Sensory activities are automatic. The mental activities called thinking is activities are deliberate, self-centered. At the Enlightenment, the concept of self disappears. In Buddha's language, it is called, the concept of I is called asmimana. There is a bondage in our mind according to Buddha, and that disappears. And there is no I, the concept of I, the idea of I in our mind. Therefore, the mind does not think of any sensation. Therefore, the mind becomes free of creation of mental images. That is why the supreme bliss of nirvana is called sunyata, meaning voidness or emptiness. Empty the mind. Empty the mind of all mental images created by our process of thinking. This creation of mental images by your thinking ceases at the enlightenment. Then the mind is free of mental images. It becomes empty of mental images. Creation of mental images. Signals are there, but the mind does not become deceived by those signals. Because enlightenment means the mind realizing the reality of the falseness of such mental signals. The mind becomes free of the ignorant or false or distorted information supplied by our sense organs. But as long as the body is living, the sensory organs are functioning, supplying information through signals, but the mind becomes free of the process of thinking. And that is the supreme bliss achieved at the enlightenment.